The financial world is holding its breath tonight because we have just received what appears to be the most significant and direct confirmation in over a decade, a statement so powerful it threatens to rewrite the global economic order before our very eyes. And it's not coming from a central bank or a World Economic Forum. It's emanating directly from Mar-a-Lago because former President Donald J. Trump has just, according to multiple high-level sources within his inner circle and corroborated by leaks in the financial preparedness community, confirmed that the long-awaited Iraqi Dinar Revaluation is not a future event. It is not a theoretical possibility. It is happening right now, at this very moment, and the implications of this are so vast, so monumental, that it is difficult to even comprehend the sheer scale of the wealth transfer that is allegedly underway. A transfer that promises to liberate thousands, if not millions, of everyday investors who have held onto this currency through years of uncertainty, conflict, and geopolitical turmoil, all while being told they were foolish, that they were chasing a fantasy, that the dream of a dinar restored to its former glory was nothing more than a pipe dream sold by gurus. But tonight, those voices are falling silent because the man who was president when the foundations for this event were allegedly laid, the man who understands the levers of global power like few others, is now putting his weight behind the reality of this happening in real time, and we must ask ourselves, what could have prompted such a definitive shift? What series of events behind the scenes have culminated in this precise moment in history to allow for such an explosive financial revelation to occur? Because it isn't happening in a vacuum. The ground has been prepared meticulously, with recent news out of Iraq pointing towards a nation desperate to shed its Chapter 3 status and rejoin the international community as a full economic partner with their recent budget surplus, their efforts to strengthen the Iraqi central bank's reserves, their very public battles with corruption, and their ongoing negotiations with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, all serving as critical puzzle pieces that now, in light of Trump's alleged confirmation, snap into a perfectly clear picture, a picture of a nation on the verge of an economic renaissance, so powerful it will send shockwaves through the forex markets. But we must also temper this excitement with a dose of stark reality, because the path to this point has been littered with disinformation, with false starts, with dates that came and went without event, which is why we cannot simply take this news at face value. We must dissect it. We must examine the provenance of these claims. We must look for the tangible, actionable evidence in the financial system itself, because a true revaluation is not a secret held by a few. It is a seismic event that will manifest in banking protocols, in international wire transfer options, in the live forex rates on Bloomberg and readers' terminals. And until we see that hard evidence, a degree of healthy skepticism is not just wise, it is essential to protect yourself from potential heartbreak. But the sheer volume of the chatter, the quality of the sources now coming forward, and the specific mention of Trump's confirmation moves this beyond the usual rumor mill into the realm of a potentially legitimate geopolitical and financial leak, one that could have been timed to coincide with a major shift in global power structures, perhaps as a move to bypass the petrodollar system that has dominated for half a century, a move that would align perfectly with Trump's America First ideology and his known desire to reshape global trade deals to favor the United States. And if that is the case, then the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is not merely about making a few investors wealthy. It is a strategic weapon in a new kind of economic warfare, a way to create a powerful ally in the Middle East that is financially independent from traditional Western banking hegemony, and by doing so, creating a new economic axis that could counterbalance other global powers, which makes this story so much bigger than just a currency play. It is about the future of American influence in the world, and the role that alternative currencies and asset classes will play in the next great chapter of human history, a chapter that, if these claims are true, is being written tonight, not in the halls of Congress, but in the private residences and secured communications of those who are truly in control of the world's financial destiny. So let's dive deep into the mechanics of this alleged confirmation and what right now truly means in the context of a global financial reset of this magnitude. Because the devil is never in the headline, but in the breathtakingly complex details that operate behind the velvet rope of public awareness. And for this revaluation to be authentic and sustainable, it must be underpinned by a series of undeniable and verifiable geopolitical and economic agreements that have been secretly negotiated over many months, if not years. And these are not simple handshake deals. They are intricate treaties that involve the future of Iraq's vast oil reserves, the restructuring of its monumental national debt, and the delicate balance of power in the entire Middle Eastern region. And a key piece of evidence that supporters of this immediate timeline point to is the recent and unusually assertive statements from the Iraqi government itself, which has been loudly proclaiming its intention to remove the currency's 3 zeros, a move that many analysts within the dinar community interpret not as a simple redenomination, but as the necessary precursor to a full and legitimate revaluation that would restore its international purchasing power. And when you couple that with the confirmed fact that Iraq has been making early repayment offers to its international creditors, a classic sign of a nation preparing to strengthen its credit rating and signal fiscal responsibility to the world, the narrative of a country on the cusp of a financial coming-out party becomes incredibly compelling. And then you layer in the intelligence from the banking and International Monetary Fund world, where whispers of a new international currency basket are growing louder, a basket that would include the Chinese yuan, the Russian ruble, and potentially a newly revalued Iraqi dinar as part of a broader, Barrais-led challenge to the US dollar's dominance. And if that is the plan, then Trump's alleged confirmation is not him merely observing an event, but potentially him signaling his support for, or even his orchestration of, a fundamental shift away from the financial systems that have been in place since the Bretton Woods Agreement, a realignment that would explain the intense and almost frantic opposition from established financial institutions and the mainstream media, who have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo and who have therefore consistently labeled the dinar investment as a scam. Because the success of this revaluation would not just create new millionaires, it would fundamentally break their control over the global economic narrative and transfer a significant degree of financial power back to sovereign nations and their citizens, which is precisely why the process is so shrouded in secrecy and disinformation. Because to announce it openly would allow the entrenched powers to marshal their vast resources to stop it. So it must happen quietly through back-channel communications, through private banking apps being updated, through Tier 1 exchange platforms being prepared for a new currency code, and through a controlled dissemination of information to key figures like Trump, who can then activate their vast networks of supporters, turning them into a global wave of informed citizens ready to navigate the new financial landscape. And this is where the concept of right now becomes so critical and so misunderstood by the average observer, as it does not necessarily mean that you will walk into your bank tomorrow and see a new rate on the screen, but rather that the irreversible contractual and diplomatic switches have been flipped, that the digital tables within the world's central banking computers have been updated, and that the process of wealth distribution has officially commenced its unstoppable sequence, moving from the highest tiers of international finance down through the regional banks, and eventually to the local level where the average holder will finally be able to access their new reality, a process that could take hours, days, or a couple of weeks to fully propagate through the entire global system, but a process that, once started, cannot be rolled back, which is why this moment, this very night, is being hailed by insiders as the true point of no return, the moment the train has finally left the station after a decade of being stuck in the terminal. And we are all just waiting for it to arrive at our individual stations. Which brings us to the most critical part of this entire breaking situation, the personal imperative for you, the viewer. Because history has shown us that moments of profound global transition are not passive spectacles to be watched from the sidelines, but are instead active opportunities that demand immediate and decisive action from those who have been fortunate enough to be positioned ahead of the curve. And if this confirmation is indeed the starting pistol we believe it to be, then the window for preparation is not just closing, it is slamming shut with a finality that will echo for generations. So the question you must ask yourself right now is not whether you believe every detail, but what you will do if even a fraction of this information proves to be accurate, because the cost of inaction, of being paralyzed by skepticism or fear, is now infinitely greater than the cost of being prepared. And preparation in this context means several very specific and tangible things, starting with knowing exactly which financial institutions in your area are authorized to handle foreign currency exchanges, particularly exotic currencies like the Iraqi dinar, and having a clear and practiced plan for how you will approach that transaction, whom you will ask for, and what you will say to ensure a smooth and efficient process without raising unnecessary alarms or drawing undue attention to yourself, as discretion in the initial hours and days will be your greatest ally. And it also means having a well-considered strategy for the life-changing wealth that may soon be at your disposal, a strategy that moves beyond the initial excitement of paying off debts and buying dream houses and into the more sobering and responsible realm of asset protection, legal tax structuring, and long-term legacy planning, because the sudden arrival of significant capital brings, with it a unique set of challenges and predators that you must be prepared to deflect. From long-lost relatives and dubious investment advisors to the very real emotional and psychological toll that such a rapid shift in circumstances can inflict on an individual and their family. And this is where your immediate next steps are absolutely vital, because the information landscape in the coming days will become a toxic swamp of confusion with official denials, deliberate disinformation campaigns, and rampant social media speculation, all designed to create chaos and doubt. And the only way you will be able to navigate that chaos with clarity and confidence is by staying locked to a single, reliable source of information that has proven its commitment to cutting through the noise and delivering verified, contextualized, and actionable intelligence, which is precisely why you must make the decision right now to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell with the utmost urgency, because our team is working around the clock to monitor the live Forex feeds, to communicate with our confidential contacts within the international banking and diplomatic communities, and to analyze every single shred of data that emerges from Iraq and Washington. And we will be your beacon of truth in the coming storm, delivering live updates the moment any major development occurs, whether it's a bank in a key region opening up for exchanges, an official statement from a central bank that confirms the new reality, or a critical piece of guidance on how to protect your newfound assets. And this is not just about getting rich. This is about fulfilling the very purpose of this financial shift, which is to create a global network of empowered individuals who are free from the chains of debt and economic oppression, who can now fund the projects that heal our planet, support the technologies that advance humanity, and build the communities that foster peace and prosperity for all. And that monumental task begins with you making a simple but decisive choice in this very moment, a choice to stay informed, to stay connected, and to stay ahead of the narrative. So do not wait, do not hesitate, and do not allow this historic opportunity to pass you by. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for instant alerts, and leave a comment below with the words, "Ready for freedom," so we know who is standing with us as we cross this final threshold together, because the future is not something that happens to us. It is something we create with our actions today, and your action right now is to ensure you are prepared for the dawn of a new financial age that is already beginning to light up the horizon.